Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. So, these series of videos come from New Jersey. New Jersey does things a little bit different. And New Jersey is not very law enforcement friendly. By the way, but they had passed some laws talking about how, officer-involved shootings were going to be independently reviewed by the district attorney's office, by the attorney general of that state, and the attorney general would be the ones to produce that results of that investigation, and also be the ones to release the footage and stuff from those incidents. So this content comes from the Attorney General's office in New Jersey. This incident occurred on September 3rd of 2022 in Englewood. The recordings were released in October 6, 2022. So it took about a month for them to release the stuff, but they got it out there. I will read to you the press release for this incident, and then I will play to you the 911 call, radio dispatch, the body cam footage, and the taser cam footage from this incident. The Attorney General's office today released video footage from 3 body-worn cameras and a conducted energy device, as well as audio from a 911 call related to a fatal police-involved shooting on September 3rd, 2022 in Englewood, New Jersey. The deceased has been identified as Bernard Placide, 22, of Englewood. The fatal shooting remains under investigation by the Office of Public Integrity and Accountability. The recordings are being released pursuant to policies established by the Attorney General's office in 2019 that are designed to promote the fair, impartial, and transparent investigation of fatal police encounters. Investigators previously met with the family of Mr. Placide to provide them an opportunity to review the videos before release. According to the preliminary investigation, uniformed officers of the Englewood Police Department responded to a residence on West Englewood Avenue in Englewood at approximately 8:29 a.m. following a 911 call referencing a domestic violence disturbance. The call involved a man with a knife who was reportedly stabbing and trying to kill individuals inside the residence. Upon arrival, officers located one of the 3 stabbing victims in a bathroom. Officers subsequently located Mr. Placide in a bedroom armed with a knife. Officers issued multiple commands for him to drop the weapon. When he failed to comply, Officer Brian Havlicek deployed a taser. Officer Lewanna Sharp discharged her firearm, fatally wounding Mr. Placide. Police and emergency medical personnel rendered first aid. Officer Sharp was also treated for an injury to her hand from the knife. Investigators recovered a knife near Mr. Placide. Mr. Placide was transported to Englewood Hospital and pronounced deceased at approximately 9:17 a.m. The 3 wounded individuals were treated and released from an area hospital. The investigation is ongoing and no further information is being released at this time. The investigation is being conducted pursuant to a state law enacted in January 2019, which requires that the Attorney General's office conduct all investigations of a person's death that occurs during an encounter with a law enforcement officer acting in the officer's official capacity or while the deceased is in custody. It goes on talking about that law and what they do. And then that's the end of the synopsis of this event. So here is the 911 call.
911, where's your emergency?
No, trying to kill me.
You tried to kill you? Where are you?
Everybody in my house.
Where are you?
West Englewood Avenue.
West Englewood Avenue?
I don't know what happened to him.
West Englewood Avenue?
Yeah.
Okay, what apartment number? Apartment, what's your phone number? All right, what's your first name? And your last name? What do you mean he's trying to kill you?
He has a knife.
He has a knife?
He tried to kill me. My husband came over. He hurt my husband. My husband is in the bathroom, but he still has something on his hand.
How old is he?
He's 22.
He's 22?
Yeah.
22? What's his name?
Bernard.
Bernard?
Black.
Name is
Bernard Placide.
Did he get you with the knife, or he's just trying to get you with the knife?
No, it did. But I tried to call my husband when
he cut you?
Yeah, I hurt somewhere too. I have blood in my hand.
You have blood on your hand?
Yeah, but he hurt my husband. He hurt my husband badly because there's blood on the floor.
There's blood?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you control the bleeding?
Huh?
Can you control the bleeding?
No, I'm bleeding heavily. I'm bleeding heavily now. But my husband is in the bathroom bleeding.
Yes. Yes.
He's gone. We have to take him. He's crazy. I don't know what happened to him. He's been acting crazy lately.
How much are you bleeding? A lot or a little?
I don't know. There was blood in the floor.
There's a lot of blood on the floor. Can you stop the bleeding?
I don't know. I cannot go inside. I don't know where he is.
Okay. Are you safe right now?
I am upstairs from my sister. I'm safe, but probably is downstairs. But my husband is in the bathroom. And he's in the house with my husband. They have to come right away.
They're on the way, okay?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to my...
Are you in a safe spot?
Sure.
All right. Do you know where went? Is he still in the house?
He's in the house.
Okay. What kind of clothes do you remember him wearing?
He has a short thing. He's in the house. He has a short thing.
He's still there?
He's downstairs in his room. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Oh, he doesn't know what he's doing?
No, he's crazy because...
He's crazy?
Yeah.
Okay. Does he still have the knife?
I think he has another something. He has another something on his head. I don't know if it's knife or something. He hit my brother. He hit my father too.
He hit your father too?
Yeah. My father come to talk to him.
Where's your father?
He's upstairs. He's safe.
Is he safe?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my husband is not safe. He's downstairs with him, and my husband is bleeding. He's in the bathroom. He has to come out. I don't know how bad he is.
Okay, ma'am, there's someone there. Can you go speak to them?
Who?
There's an officer there, okay? Go outside to the officer. You're at Englewood Ave, right? Department of... Yeah. He might be an EDP.
He's not one.
Here is the radio dispatch log.
194 246 254 235. It's going to be Englewood Avenue. Report of a fight, the male with a knife.
194 received. 246 received.
$35 received. 254 received. 246 copy. U.S. responding, it's going to be apartment. Callers reporting trying to harm her physically. She was stabbed with a knife. We have BLS staging.
Alright, 332 on Island. Englewood.
That's four. Englewood to 242.
Ten seven.
Set four.
Eight eight four nine pulling up. Englewood, you. Englewood.
She said firm.
554.
Receive. Should be the rear entrance on the corner of
49, we got it.
Receive 249.
House, go for 249.
Okay, we have BLS staging.
8 fire, I'm outside with one female victim. There's another male victim inside.
Receive.
Englewood, shots fired.
Shots fired. There is a risk.
We need EMS up here, ASAP.
Is it clear for EMS to come in?
2-4, 2-4.
Dispatch, did you receive one male? She is subject to the chest.
Receive one male. Gunshot wound to the chest. ALS and BLS advised to come in.
Alright, so now we'll get into the body cam footage.
Should be the rear entrance on the corner.
Back this up real quick. Let's go ahead and talk about this fucking phone. So I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it now. Cell phones are like a fucking cancer. I don't know what she's doing on this phone. It's blurred out. So it could be of personal nature, or it could be work-related kind of stuff. I don't know what she's doing. But is it critical for this call? Does she need to be on her phone for this call? I don't think so. Unless they have CAD apps on their cell phones and she's checking herself in and the others as arriving on scene, instead of using a radio to do that. I don't understand why she would be on her phone. This is something that she does not need to be doing. The phone needs to be in her pocket or be in the car. It does not need to be out in her hands. Just because the call came out that there's a fight inside a house, the person was reported to still be in the house, doesn't mean that they couldn't come out of that house and be waiting for the police to get there and then try to ambush them. Her situational awareness right now, she's glued to her phone, checking out what's going on the phone instead of her surroundings. This is not good scene safety. When we talk about training scars, things that we do in the training environment repetitively that can cause us to do things when we don't want them to happen, but they happen because we've done them so many times, it becomes muscle memory. The same is true within our normal everyday life when it comes to cell phones. So if your everyday life involves you always constantly being on your fucking phone and checking it and walking with it and being on it, and you end up doing that some at work during non-call times, then when actual calls come out and you go to them, you're going to find yourself doing that instinctively without even thinking about it. I think that needs to be something that is addressed at all agencies. If you're out on a call and there is nothing work critical for you to be doing on that phone don't need to be out. Not at all. If you need to communicate with someone, use the radio. If the radio communication is going to be a long, drawn-out communication that you just can't handle by switching to another talk-around channel, then of course the phone would be coming into play at that point. And by that virtue of just doing that, being on the phone, that means that whatever's going on the scene is not critical, or there's not enough people there to secure. You have enough people there for backup. There's nothing critical going on. You can talk on the phone to someone else for that work-related thing, to have that long, drawn-out conversation. Or if you're using it to search a person's name through a database, that you have an app through your phone to be able to do that, or whatever, then of course that's work-related, and it's okay to do it in that moment when things appear to be calm, things are secure, there's enough backup there. Getting out of the car right at the beginning of the call when you don't even know for sure where the fuck anybody's at, that is not the time to be on your phone. Head needs to be on a swivel, need to be looking around, paying attention to what the fuck is going on. Alright, second thing, I don't see anybody with a rifle. This is a high risk call. They are going to a call where a person has a knife and they have fucking stabbed people. That is a high risk call. They should have their rifles out at this moment. Now, I don't know anything about the city of Englewood Police Department. I don't know if every car has a rifle in it, or if they only put rifles in supervisors' cars, or only the SWAT team people, if they even have a SWAT team, can carry rifles. I don't know. A lot of agencies out there have patrol rifles in vehicles, but there are some out there that don't. But if they do have patrol rifles in their vehicles, then these officers are wrong for not getting them out. If you're going to a high-risk call, a call that is involving a person with a deadly physical weapon, you need a rifle. A rifle is far more superior than a pistol. It will do a better job at physically incapacitating a threat than a pistol will. If you know you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring your friends with rifles. Even if that fight is a knife fight, bring a rifle. If it's going to be a high-risk, deadly physical type of incident, or has the possibility for it being deadly, bring a rifle. All right, moving on.
Should be in the rear exit on corner.
So you notice that they parked a little bit ways down the street and then made their approach on foot. That's pretty standard, so that's a pretty good tactic to follow. You don't want to just pull up right upside the house. That could put you at a disadvantage if that person wants to try and ambush you. It's best to park a distance away from the house and then approach the rest of the way on foot. So good on them for at least doing that.
on that
What apartment? What apartment? What apartment?
Englewood Police.
Englewood Police. Englewood Police, come out. Englewood Police, we have our guns drawn. Come out. You were stabbed? Is anybody else inside? Where is it? Where is it?
Stay up there.
Somebody go up there, please. Where is he? Oh, where is he?
Where is he at? He's in his room. His room, second door, stairs. His room, second door.
Come on with your hands up.
Where were you stabbed at? In your stomach? Second door.
Try to get a med kit.
Englewood Police, come out.
Englewood Police.
How old is he? How old is he? How old? Come on now!
Put your fucking hands up.
Put your hands up now or you're gonna get shot. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. Put your hands out, you're gonna get shot. I'm not kidding.
Hands up now.
Drop the knife. Drop it. Drop it.
Drop him now.
I can't see his hands. You need to drop the knife.
Drop the knife. Drop it.
Taser.
Drop it.
Taser.
You got lethal resistance? Taser. Go.
Take the knife.
Drop it.
Drop the knife.
Get back or I'm gonna shoot you. You got it with the second.
Drop it. Drop it.
Let's get cuffed on him. Let's cuff out. Grab my gun.
Where's last card?
Let me get cuffed.
Get her gun.
He still got it.
Still got it?
That's right, I got a cuff on. Get out EMS up here ASAP.
We need EMS up here ASAP.
Can we get it out of the whole one? Yes.
10-4.
Clear.
The knife is dropped.
It's in the chest.
Everybody else is good?
Everyone's good. Sharp is outside.
I got one male GSW to the chest.
Sharp is outside and back.
Just hold up.
Apply.
I got it.
Can you get me anything so I can apply pressure?
One male GSW to the chest.
Apply pressure to his chest. Apply pressure to his chest. Apply pressure to his chest.
I did treat one male GSW to the chest.
Chest compressions? Where's the knife? Masha, can you just... Hey, get an AED up here.
All right. So, not a lot to see from this camera angle. So one thing to think about with door frames and corners and extending your arm or weapon all the way out. This leads to the possibility, because he is right at this door, right? Because they're kicking it, he's trying to close it. So the further you stick your arm out and the hold your weapon out, the easier you make it for them to be able to take your weapon away from you. When one of your limbs is extended away from your body, you have a much more difficult time to be able to exert control over that limb and overpower someone who's grabbing a hold of it. When you bring that limb in and tuck it in closer to your core, the trunk of your body, you have more control over that limb. When it's fully extended out, you give your adversary the ability to maximize the leverage. When you retract it in, they do not have as much leverage to work with.
Go!
Take the knife.
Drop it!
Drop the knife.
Get back or I'm going to shoot.
You got it with a second cousin?
Drop it!
So we can see that he has a pair of cuffs in one hand, or in this hand, and the taser in the other. I'm not a big fan of trying to hold two things in one hand during critical incidents like this. He should have been dedicating this, at this point, this is his fighting hand, should have been dedicating his fighting hand to this taser here, to be able to operate it more efficiently. There's a possibility that he could have lost grip on this taser while holding these cuffs, and then he could be achieving good NMI on this guy, and then after dropping the taser and it stops its cycle, and then the time for him to bend down and pick it back up and try and deliver another cycle could have been advantageous for this guy to be able to injure and or further injure and or kill this officer over here. So don't be putting extra stuff in your fighting hands when you're holding fighting tools. He's also close enough, in my opinion, I'll back this up again. So this guy, you can tell from this angle, and we'll see it later on.
You got it with a second cousin?
Drop it!
You can tell from that angle that this guy is moving. He is not under the effects of NMI, neuromuscular incapacitation. The taser also sounds louder than it should be. A loud taser is indicative of a bad connection. When you have a good connection with the taser, it should be pretty quiet. I mean, not silent or anything, but the arcs. So if you have a bad connection, it should be like a ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. A good connection, it should be like a should be a little bit quieter. Still hear it, but not as loud. He is close enough to where all he has to do is step in, do a close proximity fire into this guy's leg, his lower leg at that, fire it into his fucking calf, and then just take the gun and ram it straight into his shoulder area. That is a long connection right there. That is a wide spread of contact. You would definitely achieve NMI with that. And the guy's wearing hardly any clothing. So there's no clothing entanglement issues there. This was perfect prime opportunity to either A, fire, well, it would be hard to fire into his upper extremity because he's so close up there by that. I would think firing into his lower area, firing it straight down into his leg. I mean, hold that taser a couple inches from his leg, fire that second cartridge. Both probes are going to land close to each other. We know we're not going to achieve an MI that way, but fire those two probes into his calf, take the gun itself, ram it straight into his upper chest area, maybe even his stomach, whatever, up into the shoulder if you can. Do that 3-point contact with the follow-up drive stun and lock him up with NMI. This is one of the things that I think is a failing point with Axon, is their cartridges are so freaking expensive. It is difficult for agencies to afford to do adequate training on tasers beyond just the bare minimum cartridges needed for qualification purposes. So to qualify for tasers, the officer should fire taser, perform, well, depends on the model. So if you have like the X26P model, you'd fire at the target, perform a reload, take the old cartridge off, put the new one on, fire into the target the second time, and then a third cartridge is used on that officer to have them exposed to the taser. Then they become certified. With the other ones, you know, obviously you fire one cartridge, fire the reload, or not the reload, but fire the second one that's in there. You can do the reload, and then you've got the cartridge that is used on the officer to, again, expose them to the taser. Agencies, a lot of them will do that bare minimum firing of cartridges because they can't afford the damn things when they're like $50 a pop or more. So the way that these agencies are training and qualifying with their tasers would be like if an agency handed an officer one magazine for their gun, a 15-round magazine, handed it to them and said, all right, we're going to do training and qualification, guys, and then take them out to the range. They fire a few rounds from that gun, from that magazine, and then qualify with it. And then that's it. That's all they do. They just use one magazine, maybe two magazines. That's it. That is not right. That is not adequate. We know this on firearms part. That's an obvious. You need to fire, obviously, more than two magazines for training and qualification purposes. The same should be true for taser. You need to be firing more cartridges than what is being done in the user end class. When I took taser's instructor class, each individual person, man, we fired a fuck ton of cartridges in the instructor class. And my takeaway from that was this is the way that every user class needs to be. Each student needs to be firing several cartridges, either live or training ones, whatever. You need to be firing multiple cartridges, doing multiple different drills and scenarios with it to become at least proficient with it, become better towards being proficient with it. When you look at the regular classes being done, that's not being done at all. And so you're not getting realistic or relevant training out of that. So there's lots of officers out there that, even though it's talked about in the taser training, doing a 3-point contact on a person, they don't think about it because they don't do it in a training scenario where it's a reality-based training scenario. They get the training cartridge, someone's on the ground, they fire the taser close proximity, and then do follow-up drive stun somewhere else on the body to complete that circuit. And so it's kind of lost on them at that point. So what do they revert back to in stress? Well, they go back to what they were trained on, which was only on 2 or 3 fucking cartridges from a standing position shooting at the target. That's not good enough. So Axon is doing a huge disservice to law enforcement and security and civilians when they put the price of their cartridges so fucking high, it becomes cost prohibitive to conduct good training. Axon is greedy, in my opinion. I think that they put these prices extremely high because they know that there are going to be a number of agencies out there that receive federal grant money from Homeland Security grants, Department of Justice grants, whatever. And out of that grant money, they know that they're going to be spending a good chunk with that company and buying their products, buying new tasers, buying new body cameras, etc. They know that each year they're going to get X amount of millions of dollars from all these different agencies that received federal grant money or even state grant money. So they know they're getting paid regardless. So they set these prices high because what do agencies do with grant money? They fucking blow it. It's not their money, right? we got $2.5 million in grant money. Hell yeah, we living like kings, boys. Let's go buy some shit. They're not having to scrape and wheel and deal with their little tiny local budget or anything like that. They got the fucking Rolls Royce of budgets now. So Axon knows they're going to be getting that money. So they set those prices high, in my opinion. And that leads to bad training because agencies cannot afford to buy those extra cartridges to train with because they're so fucking expensive. Alright, moving on. Let's go to the next body cam. Alright, second body cam.
Englewood, you have Englewood.
35 and 54 out.
Steve, it's gonna be should be the rear entrance in the corner.
49, we got it.
249.
And 232 on my own. Thank you.
Englewood Police. Ask what apartment they are.
What apartment?
What apartment? What apartment?
Englewood Police.
Englewood Police. Englewood Police, come out. Englewood Police, we have our guns drawn. Come out. You were stabbed? Is anybody else inside? Where is it?
Hey,
Where is it?
stay up there.
Somebody go up there, please. Where is it?
Hey, where's he at?
All right, stay there.
Second door, stairs. His room, second door.
Come out with your hands up.
Where were you stabbed at?
See him?
In your stomach? Second door.
Try to get a med kit in here.
Englewood Police, come out.
Englewood Police.
Englewood 2. 246.
Yo, put your fucking hands up. Now.
Hands up now or you're going to get shot. Put your hands
Hurry
up.
up.
Put your hands up. Put your hands out and you're going to get shot. I'm not going to...
Hands up now.
Drop the knife. Drop it.
He's got the knife.
Drop it.
Drop him now.
I can't see his knife. You need to drop the knife.
Drop the knife. Drop it. Drop it.
Yeah, lethal in the safe. Taser. Go.
Oh shit. Drop it. Drop it.
Drop the car, get back.
Drop it. Drop it.
Fire, jury 36.
Alright, so that was pretty short.
Englewood 2.
So I just want to. This is a messy place. Like this is fucking horrible looking. And there was like more than one room that looked like this. Like that first room they looked into, shit everywhere. This room, shits everywhere. That one, obviously, shits everywhere in that one. Like, I can't live like that. But there are some people who live like that. They just have shit strewn everywhere. I mean, they live in a fucking pigsty. I don't know what's wrong with people who live like that. Like, what makes them so fucked up that they think that's an acceptable way to live. But this is just straight fucking nasty looking. So I talked earlier about having your arm extended and everything. This guy could have easily had reached out and grabbed that gun and start to, even though he has both hands on it, he could have reached out and grabbed it, and because his arms are extended, he can gain a lot of leverage that way.
Put your fucking hands up! Now!
Hands up now, or you're gonna get shot. Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Put your hands out, you're gonna get shot. I'm not.
Hands up now!
I am not the biggest fan of her grip. This is more of a weaker grip to me. The web of the hand needs to be high and tight up into the back strap of this gun. It just does not appear as though she's getting a good solid grip on this gun.
Drop the knife. He's got the knife.
Drop it.
Drop it now!
I can't see his hands. You need to drop the.
Drop the knife! Drop it! Drop it!
The guy's wearing some kind of gloves. I don't know why he's wearing that. Maybe it gives him better grip when he's stabbing people. Maybe he's, a germaphobe. Maybe he doesn't want to get anything on his hands. I don't know.
Yeah, leave all the Taser! Go!
So the deployment of the taser had some type of effect on him. He went down. Now, whether or not he's actually experiencing NMI or not, I don't know. But it has affected him.
Oh shit!
Drop it! Get back!
Oh shit!
So they're in a pretty confined room. That officer who deployed taser is behind her. She has gone forward into the room to try and gain control of this guy. She still has her lethal weapon out. It is difficult to do things with one hand to control a person when the other is tied up. However, at that same time, with the positioning and the angles and everything, no one else is able to provide lethal cover to her. No one else is able to get in there and put a gun on this guy. So she still has to maintain her lethal cover. Because if she holsters her gun, who's pointing a gun at this guy? The people who are behind her. Will they get a good, clear line of sight, line of fire? Don't know. Doubtful. Could someone else have very quickly swarmed into the room and got into a better position to put a gun on this guy? Potentially, yes. But this damn room is just full of junk. Like, even with him out of the way, they still can't get the damn door open all the way. So that tells me there's a bunch of shit on the floor. So I can't fault her too much for not holstering her gun, because she is realistically the only one who is able to provide herself with lethal cover. No one else can do that, because she would then be kind of in their way. So she's trying to get that knife out of his hand, but he still has a hold of it.
Oh shit! Drop it! Drop it!
Drop it! Mark, get back!
Drop it! Drop it! Drop it!
Mark, get back!
At this point, you can see the object in his hand too. At this point, she could have backed away from him and maintained lethal cover and encourage the officer to fire his second cartridge into this guy to maybe get better NMI on this guy. Maybe have her position herself where she's standing on the bed and gets closer to over in here to be able to point that gun down at his back and back of his head, and a third officer come in there, holster up, and go both hands on, trying to control that limb and get that weapon out of his hand while he's under the effects of NMI, neuromuscular incapacitation. I think that would have been the better thing to do. Right here in the moment, what else can she be doing? Like I said, there's not much that you can be doing when your one hand is holding the gun. And as I said before, she's the only one who's capable of providing lethal cover at this point. Everyone else is to her back. She pushes the gun into him. I don't know why, 100% why she's doing that. It could be that she's doing that because she has intentions of wanting to shoot him and wants to get good shot placement. But that goes back into the whole concept of pushing your gun out forward, increasing the exploitable leverage that the adversary can use against you. This type of distance is where you get into retention shooting, where you tuck your gun close into the core of your body, rotate it outboard a little bit so that the slide can avoid hitting your pectoral area and be able to properly reciprocate when you start firing and not induce a malfunction. That would be what I would recommend doing, is bringing that gun closer into your core, into a retention firing position. That way, if he does reach out, it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to grab a hold of that gun and try to exercise control out of it. If she is trying to press that gun into him because she plans on shooting him and wants a good shot placement, then the added benefit of a weapon-mounted light on there creates standoff from the muzzle of the gun. So these firearms, modern firearms, Glocks, if you press the front of the gun, you can cause the slide to go backwards, and that throws the gun out of battery. And when you pull the trigger, nothing happens because it's out of battery. You have to release that pressure, let that slide rock all the way forward, even just a little bit, and then you can fire it. So when she's pressing into him, that flashlight or that weapon-mounted light is creating standoff and is preventing that slide from being pushed back and being out of battery. If she did not have a weapon-mounted light on that gun and she pressed that gun into him to fire into him, there's a possibility that his chubby body could have caused the slide to push back out of battery. So if you're going to press the gun into someone, which I don't have a problem with because that is another tactic to be able to do, press the gun into them and then just start popping rounds off. But you gotta understand the gun could go out of battery if you do not have a weapon-mounted light on there. Could she have fired more than one round? Yes, I think she could have. Anything worth shooting once, in my opinion, is worth shooting twice. So I think she could have at least done a couple rounds right off the bat right there. If she was having the intention, the conscious decision to shoot, which I don't know if she does or not. It's also possible that she could have indeed ended this guy. Now, although if she did negligently discharge into this guy, yeah, that sucks that you were keeping your finger on the trigger without the conscious decision to shoot and you cause an ND. But under these circumstances, the guy's armed with a deadly weapon. He's not letting it go. He's still resisting. deadly physical force is warranted in this scenario anyway. So even if it was an ND, it kind of doesn't matter because she's still covered under using deadly physical force in her protection. But I don't know what the mindset is here. I haven't seen any reports, anything like that, her testimony or anything like that. So I have no idea if she was making that conscious decision to fire a round into him or if it was an ND. Either way, I have no problem with a round going into this guy because he has stabbed people and he is holding the knife and is actively trying to stab her, and he does end up cutting her with a knife. Also, being this super close, if she did decide to make that conscious decision to use deadly physical force, I think the most appropriate thing to do would take the gun and ram it right here into the side of the face, to the side of the head, and press the trigger. That's going to get the most immediate desired effect. 100%. Firing into the side right here, that's not a guarantee that you're going to get immediate physical incapacitation. At this distance, point contact to the side of the head, you can't fucking miss. So that, in this context, would be the best place to put a round at.
Drop it!
Alright, not much else to say on this one. Let's go to the next body cam. Alright, here's the third body cam.
Englewood, you got West Englewood?
So earlier I had talked about them parking away from the house and walking up, and I thought that was a good thing. So it appears as though they did that on accident. Looks like he was thinking that this could have been the house and then walked up in there trying to see if that was the address or not. So, whoopsie on that comment earlier.
Should be the rear entrance, the corner.
Does somebody have a weapon inside? Okay. Who else is inside the house? Come out. Who else is inside the house? Okay. Englewood Police. Ask what apartment they are. There's the first floor.
Englewood Police.
Englewood Police. Somebody's got to come over here. Somebody's got to open. Englewood Police, come out. Englewood Police, we have our guns drawn. Come out. You were stabbed? Is anybody else inside? Where is it? Where is it?
Stay up there.
All right, somebody go up there, please. Where is he? Where's his room? Third room to the right.
Come on, put your hands up. Where were you stabbed? See him?
No.
Your stomach?
Englewood Police, come out.
Englewood Police.
It's not here.
How old you? How old?
Come out now!
Put your fucking hands up!
Put your hands up now or you're gonna get shot. Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Put your hands out, you're gonna get shot. I'm not kidding.
Hands up now!
Drop the knife. Drop it. Drop it.
Drop
I can't
it
see
now.
him. I can't see his hands. You need to drop the
Drop
knife.
the knife. Drop it! Drop it!
You got lethal on the side? Taser, taser, taser! Go, go! Go!
Take the knife. Oh shit! Drop it! Drop it!
Sharp, get back or I'm gonna shoot him. You can't.
Drop it! Drop it!
Anybody shot fired? First last fired. Where's the knife?
You got knife? You got gloves?
Yeah.
He still got it.
You still got it?
That's right, I got a cuff on. You got a cuff on?
Alright, let's throw him out. Throw him out.
Get our hand us up here ASAP.
Spin him over.
We get him out of the hallway? Yes.
Seat is clear. Seat is clear.
The knife is dropped.
To the chest.
Where's the knife?
Dispatch, you got one male. GSW to the chest.
Chest is outside left.
Just gloves on. Just hold on.
I got it.
Can you give me anything?
Dispatch, is your one male. GSW to the chest.
This chest.
You have a...
Dispatch, I didn't see one male.
Let's get him out for gun cadet for chest compressions. Where's the knife?
Alright, let's back this up. Boom, ba boom. Use the mouse here. So, dude's head pops out. So, he doesn't know the dude's in there right now. He's standing behind the door. And, of course, this is wanting to freeze up on me. But the dude's behind the door. And he kind of does a little head pop out kind of deal. Like a game of fucking whack-a-mole. And, like, that could be kind of startling. When, like, you don't know if someone's in there for sure. And then boom, they make a movement, and then you're like, oh, fuck, there's someone there. It can be a bit of a startling kind of moment there. And, of course, this is frozen on me. I'm not wanting to do anything.
Now or you're gonna get shot. Put your hands up. Put your hands up.
So at this point, he doesn't know if there's anyone in there or not. He's doing, basically, call it pieing, where he's moving slowly, clearing these sectors around this corner that he can see. And then, boom, dude's head pops out.
Come out now.
And so it's kind of a surprise to him, like, oh shit, there's someone in there.
Hands up!
That could be kind of a startling thing when you're searching for someone and then, boom, you found them. Or they make a movement and you didn't know they were in there and now you're aware that they're there. That can be a pretty startling moment.
Put your hands up now or you're gonna get shot. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. You're gonna get shot.
So check out his arm here. Sometimes you can see this, sometimes you can't in these cameras, but you start to see the goosebumps forming on his arm here. This is one of the physiological changes that occur during fight or flight. People start to get the goosebumps on the arms, and the hair starts standing up on them. This is kind of some evolutionary kind of stuff from, when we were more closer to animals than what we are, being more human. The hair rising up on you. So other animals, during fight or flight, they can, their hair will stand up and it kind of gives them a larger appearance. So that is something that humans still do, even though, the hair on our arms and stuff is not going to be standing all the way up and making us appear to be bigger, because we just don't have that much hair left on our bodies from the years of evolution. But it's still something that goes on within the human body.
Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
But it's still interesting to see those processes going on.
Put your hands out, you're going to get shot. I'm not kidding.
Hands up now!
Drop the knife. Drop it. Drop it. You got lethal safe?
So he makes the decision to transition to less lethal, and he's verifying that she has lethal coverage. So that's good. You never want to pull less lethal and there not be lethal coverage available. Lethal force needs to be met with lethal force.
Taser, taser, taser. Go, go. Go!
So he hits the guy with it. The guy goes down, but it does not fully 100% appear to be that he has NMI occurring.
Drop it!
Sharp, get back.
So he pulled out cuffs. He put the cuffs in the guy's, or in his left hand, holding the taser, which I talked about that before. That's not something that needs to be going on. And then he pulls his lethal weapon out after he notices the guy's still armed and he's resisting her.
I'm going to shoot.
He mentions that he's going to shoot. And that, in my opinion, is probably not the best thing for him to be doing due to, one, the angles. It's not a good firing solution right here. And then also, he is operating two different weapons. And sympathetic reflex is a thing. And it is more noticeable under stress. When you are utilizing one hand to do something, and you clench that hand, or you retract your fingers and curl your fingers around something or whatever, the other hand will do the same thing without you even consciously thinking about telling the other hand to do it. Sympathetic reflex. That, like I said, occurs more noticeably under stress. And something as simple as having your gun pointed at someone and your finger being on the trigger, and then you take your other hand and you reach up and you use your other finger to depress the push to talk button on the radio. Under stress, you could have a sympathetic reflex, and just that motion of you squeezing the radio hand or handle to talk, you could have your other hand's fingers contract and then inadvertently send a round off. So with him operating the taser with his left hand and holding the lethal weapon with his right hand, he could be using his finger to send another cycle through the taser and then boom, inadvertently discharge his gun. And he was not all the time having that gun's muzzle pointed right at this guy. His muzzle was technically in some parts touching her in a sense. So if he had came off target and the gun was pointed at her and he had sympathetic reflex when he tried to activate taser again, he could have sent a round into her back. Hopefully it would have hit the vest, but it could have also gone into her ass, her legs, her arms, or even the back of her head. So I don't recommend holding your gun and taser at the same time and trying to utilize both of them at the same time. If you are going to try to do that, it's something I think you need to practice on the range at least, doing a couple evolutions of that. and making that very conscious decision of, all right, I got my gun out, it's at the low ready, my finger is indexing. Make that conscious thought of, okay, my finger, the pad of my finger is on the ejection port. I feel the ejection port. Okay, now it's safe for me to pull the trigger on this taser. That way, if you do end up having sympathetic reflex, if that finger contracts on your gun hand, at least it's going to contract on the ejection port versus the trigger. So, like I said, if you got plans to have both in each hand, and try to utilize one while holding the other, you need to be in a space where you can consciously think about what you're doing. The details. Because the details matter in something like that. Because if you're just holding shit and you're not consciously knowing where the fuck your finger is at on that gun, and it's resting within the trigger guard or on that trigger, and you go to actuate that taser and you have sympathetic reflex, boom, you're having a negligent discharge. Best case scenario is you ND into the fucking ground and no one gets hurt. Worst case scenario is you shoot one of your own people. Shooting the police is never a good day. As I noted earlier, he could have very easily stepped in and just did a second firing of the cartridge and do the follow-up drive stun to really achieve NMI.
That's right, I got
When they go to drag him out into this hallway, personally, I think they should have dragged him completely out of the room to be able to get better workspace. Now, this hallway is not that wide, so I would not even be opposed to continuing to drag him further down that hallway and out into the foyer where the staircase is and work on him out there. There's going to be a little bit more room out there. And plus, he's going to have to go out that way anyway when the ambulance gets there and packs him up to take him. That would have been a better workspace, in my opinion, versus him being partially into the room and partially out into the hallway. We do see him cuffing him. Some people have issues or questions about why people are cuffed after they've been shot. Reason why people are cuffed after they've been shot is because just because they've been shot doesn't mean they can't get back up. Lots of incidents out there where people have been shot and then they got back up and continue to fight. A famous case that is referenced a lot is FBI Miami shooting back in the 1980s. FBI was stopping a couple of bank robbers / armored truck robbers and pursue them. They wreck out and gunfight happens. One of the robbers got shot in the head at the very beginning of this fight, and it only temporarily knocked him out. He was able to wake back up, crawl out of his damaged vehicle, and try to steal one of the FBI's vehicles. His partner, he took a round to the side of his chest that landed within his heart area, but he continued to fight. That round, that one hit in of itself was going to be fatal. He was not going to survive that. But it did not immediately incapacitate him. He also received other gunshot wounds to non-critical parts of his body. He got shot with pistol and also shotgun. And he continued the fight and killed 2 FBI agents and seriously wounded 2 to 3 others before he was finally put down by Ed Morales. And there is nothing in his blood. They did toxicology at autopsy, and both of them were clean. No drugs in their system whatsoever. The rounds that hit them did not go in to critical parts to cause immediate incapacitation. And that one guy who got shot multiple times and continued to fight, he just had a strong will to fight. He had a strong mindset. That That's why people get handcuffed after they've been shot. You don't know if they're going to get back up again. You don't have x-ray vision. You can't see exactly what that bullet has done. Bullets are unpredictable. Just because the bullet has gone high into the chest doesn't mean that it's gone into the heart and lung area. It could have hit the lung and deflected and then exited out the side, or changed trajectory and gone down into the abdomen area and rested somewhere down into the stomach area. You just don't know what bullets are going to do once they enter that type of medium. And if the person was to get back up again, if they're handcuffed, it's a whole lot more difficult for them to fight when they're handcuffed. Preferably, I think it's best to handcuff them in the back, because if you're going to fight, it's a hell of a lot more fucking difficult to fight with your hands behind your back. It can be difficult to fight with your hands cuffed to the front, but you still have more mobility and fighting ability when they're cuffed to the front. To the back, it's just damn near impossible for you to effectively fight with your hands cuffed behind your back. If we had a pillow fight and I cuffed your hands behind your back and mine were cuffed to the front, who do you think is going to get the shit knocked out of them more times with a pillow? It's going to be you with your hands cuffed behind your back. Alright, so that's it on the last body cam footage. Let's go into the taser cam footage. Alright, taser Alright, so we don't see a whole lot with the taser cam footage, but we do see a little bit more of a different perspective and angle. Here you can see the blade very well in his hand, so that you can for sure see that he does have a deadly physical weapon. Taser cams are pretty cool, but not all tasers are equipped with them. With the older model tasers, the Echo model, the taser cam on them was great because you could recharge the camera battery once it got down. And so realistically, you never have to buy new digital power magazines for that taser. You could always recharge the battery because the camera was rechargeable. And right now, because the Echo model is no longer produced by Taser, but there are still a bunch of them out there being used, mostly by smaller agencies that are more poor and security agencies. Those tasers are eventually going to become paperweights when all those DPMs, digital power magazines, that were made for them dry up, because Taser's not making those anymore either. So those who have the taser cam for those old tasers, you got a pretty cool thing. You got a rechargeable battery that's going to keep that taser in service so long as it doesn't break. Now the problem with those older tasers and those older cameras was the camera was big and bulky, and it would catch on things, and it would easily crack the seal on the taser. It would torque it enough to break the handle, so to speak. And not even break it big enough to where you could see it with your naked eye. It would crack it just enough, and the electricity would follow the path of least resistance and would not go to the electrodes anymore. It would actually go, into other components of the taser. I've seen the arc come from one of the probes and go back in through the opening where the laser and LED is at. And then I've seen tasers that where the arc didn't come out the probes at all, but instead it was arcing on the inside of the taser itself, and then of course burnt the taser out and made it no longer workable. So because of those issues, I think there's a lot of places out there that remember that. We're like, oh man, these fucking taser cams, man, they fucking catch on shit and break the tasers. I don't think that there's a whole lot of places out there that have gotten the taser cams for the newer tasers. Of course, you know, the newer tasers are built a little bit better. They're more waterproof, obviously, than the older models. So they are better, and I think the taser cams are better, but I think there's some places out there that just had a bad taste left in their mouth from the old generations of them and just don't really consider them anymore. I think it's a good thing to have, or can be a good thing to have, because you're able to see the perspective of the taser itself and when it deploys, and be able to capture what's going on. Used to, before body cams were very prevalent, the taser cam was kind of one of those nice things to have to back up why you're having to utilize taser. But now that body cams are out there, that's another contributing factor, I think, on why agencies are opting not to use taser cams so much, because I already have a body camera that's going to be working and on, and why worry about it when you have everything being captured by the body cam itself. And then the size and everything, adding that camera to the bottom does make it a little bit bulkier, does make it slightly a little bit heavier. It's not like it's a day and night difference or anything, but it does add a little bit extra weight and does make it a little bit bulkier. So some agencies and officers may not care to have that. But there's still some out there that will utilize these taser cams, and it's always kind of like, ooh, ah, kind of moment when you come across these taser cam videos, because they're just not as, to me, I just don't think they're as prevalent anymore, because there's doesn't seem like as many people are using them as they were, you know, I guess back in the day. I could be wrong on that. You know, I could just not have a good sample of videos to be going through to notice all this, but at least in my area, that's kind of something I've noticed. I just haven't seen taser cams being used much anymore. All right, that's it for this. And that is it for this entire video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.